I just want to welcome everyone, and we look forward to getting started.
All right. So, to get us started, first, just a few housekeeping things. Brad and I have done this presentation a few times already. We understand that everyone has lots of questions, and we are happy to try to answer as many of them as we can. If we can't do it right today after this, you will be given our contact information and you can always reach out to us. I do want to, though, just our last presentation, we had a lot of questions that were given, people asked right in the beginning as soon as they signed on, which is fine. But just know we are going to kind of hold off on a lot of these questions until we get through the whole presentation, because a lot of the questions that are asked are answered throughout the presentation. So if you guys can hold off on those questions, it may even be a little bit better. So, all right, to go ahead and get us started, here's the overview of what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about why Brad and I are even involved in student loans. We're going to go through some basics of student loans, particularly types of loans and repayment plans, and kind of some buzzwords that you guys must understand in order to get this forgiveness. Then we're going to go into the specifics of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Plan, otherwise known as PSLF. We'll go through some of the basics, how it can help you, how to stay on track for those of you guys that are in the process of earning this forgiveness. Then we are going to go through the PSLF limited time waiver, we'll kind of go through, see if you qualify for that. And then we're going to talk about what we know so far regarding President Biden's announcement regarding the mass 10K or 20K cancellation. A little caveat is that some of these things are a little bit shifting sands for Brad and I. We are still getting directives on some of this stuff, particularly that 10K or 20K forgiveness from the White House. So everything is correct as of today. And as more information is released, we will be releasing that. Follow us on our Facebook page, on our Twitter page. We will be making sure the Idfpr Twitter and Facebook pages, we will make sure that we're getting information out there. And then, as you guys may have noticed when you signed up, there were presentations all the way up until October 31st. So some of those later ones, if something's announced from now till then, would also include that information. And sorry. All right, so Idfpr and student loans. Our agency that Brad and I work for actually plays a really important part in protecting Illinois student loan borrowers. Our role is that we license and monitor consumer credit licensees who make student loans, debt collectors who collect defaulted student loans, and we monitor and license about 40 student loan servicers who actually collect your payments, and those are the ones that provide borrowers with all your student loan information. So they're who you're paying your bill to. Brad actually oversees all of that aspect in our agency. We also administer this Illinois Student Loan Bill of Rights, which you guys may not even realize exists. So in Illinois, you are guaranteed this information: clear and accurate loan information, prompt and accurate handling of payments. Your servicers have to explain all available loan options to you. You have a right to request your payment history at any time, and you have a right to timely dispute resolution and appeal. What this means is that because we have this specialized student loan bill of rights, we just wanted to make you guys aware of this. that this is out there. And if you are experiencing issues with your server, at the end of this presentation, there will be how to file a complaint that gets sent to Brad. So this is kind of just so you know when you're talking to your server what your rights in Illinois are. All right, so let's go through the basics of student loans. This is a big picture and a lot of these key terms that we'll keep using throughout this presentation. So there's deferment. Deferment lets you stop making payments on your loan for 3 years, up to 3 years. This is not loan forgiveness, and interest does not accrue. And it's only on federal loans, it does not accrue. Deferment is not something you can just request. You have to apply for it and show the need. Forbearance, on the other hand, allows you to suspend or lower your monthly payments temporarily, usually no more than a year. The big difference between deferment and forbearance is that during forbearance, your interest continues to accrue. And whenever your forbearance period ends, so if you take it for a full 12 months, when you start payments again, all of that interest is due that first payment. And then loan servicers, which we talked about, that's the company that your lender uses to process billing. They're the ones that respond to your questions. And if you are not sure who your loan servicer is, it is who you pay your bill to every month. So there are two main types of student loans: private loans and federal loans. Private loans are offered by a private sector lender, and the vast majority of student loan borrowers have to take out some sort of private loan along with their federal loans. Their federal loan may not cover their entire education expense, so then they have a private loan as well. Private loans typically have higher interest rates. The big downside to private loans is that they are not eligible for any federal loan forgiveness programs. So if you only have private loans, none of those loans are eligible for Pslf. None of those loans are going to be eligible if you only have private loans for the 10 and 20K forgiveness. So private loans are private. The federal government has no jurisdiction over them. On the other hand, there's federal loans this is offered by the federal government. They're backed by the federal government. Almost all student loans are federal, 92%. Like I said, private loans are usually meant to supplement your federal loans. So there are two main types of federal loans that we'll talk a lot about. It's called a Psl loan, which is the Federal Family Education Loan Program, or a direct loan, which is the William D. Ford Direct Lending Program. This presentation is all about the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, so we are only focused on federal loans today. If you are not sure if your loan is federal or private, go ahead and log on to studentaid.gov. You should have your FSA ID and you'll be able to view all your loan information on your dashboard. If you do not see a loan that is listed there and you know you have a loan, chances are it's private. You could also contact your loan servicer to ask if your loan is federal or private, and also review your actual bill statement that comes in. I know it's been a little weird with the COVID payment pause, but usually there will be some sort of marking at the top that says federal or private. And you could also call the FSA hotline. All right, so the types of federal student loans. As I said, that there are two main loans. There's the Psl loans. You may hear a servicer say something to you that you have a commercial held Psl or an ed held Psl. All that means is who actually owns the loan. Is it the bank? Is it the Department of Education? Here with a Psl, the bank is actually the lender and the federal government guarantees the loan. However, after 2010, this type of loan is no longer a choice. So if all of your student loans are post 2010, you have a direct loan. If they are pre 2010, the most common is a FFEL loan. It could also be, there's other names, but these are really old, so we don't go into them, but some other names out there. Perkins, Stafford, there are other types of federal loans. Then there are the direct loans where the federal government is actually the lender, and there are different types of direct loans. So you may have a subsidized direct loan. That is for undergraduate students who demonstrate a certain financial need, meaning that they have a direct loan, but part of it is covered. Then there's the unsubsidized direct loan. That unsubsidized are for undergraduate, graduate, and professional studies, but those are not based on needs, so it's for any of those. There's also called a plus loan. That is for graduate degrees, professional students, or parents of dependent undergraduate students. And then there's something called consolidation. Consolidation allows you to combine all your different federal loans into one single direct loan. We are going to get into consolidation shortly. All right, so the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, also known as PSLF. We're going to go through a little bit of the purpose of PSLF because when we talk about all the changes that has come to us recently, it's important to keep a little bit of background of the program in your mind. It was created in 2007, and the purpose of this law was to encourage people to enter public service. That was the whole point. It was supposed to be straightforward. It was supposed to say, hey, you make 120 qualifying payments while you are a public servant. Otherwise, 120 payments is 10 years. So you serve the public for 10 years, the remainder of your loan balance will be forgiven. And public service was any type of government, most 501c3 not-for-profits. So examples. Brad and I working at Idfpr qualifies. If you're a teacher, you qualify. If you're in the military, you qualify. So there's a whole bunch. If you are a public servant, you qualify. So since this was passed in 2007 and it was 10 years of service, the first batch of borrowers became eligible in October of 2017. However, there was a huge problem because, as I said, the purpose of the law was straightforward, but when they actually went to implement the law, it became very convoluted, and there were a lot of different requirements that created strict eligibility criteria. And borrowers, in the meantime, were getting a lot of inaccurate or different or incomplete or not any information about the program from their servicer. So that's why it's important to know what's required and keep on track. So the temporary waiver. This announcement allowed temporary changes to the program in order for more borrowers to qualify for forgiveness. The waiver waives some of that strict eligibility criteria I was talking about. So it allows for payments and loan types that did not qualify in the past to become eligible for this program for a short period of time. So changes were announced October 6th of last year, and the deadline is October 31st of 2022. By all signs point to that is the deadline. So we're going to first kind of talk a little bit about the program as a whole and then get into how the waiver can help different situations. And I am going to turn it over to Brad.
All right, good afternoon. Can you hear me now, Nikki?
Yep, I'm good.
All right, perfect. So we'll get started with the essentials of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. We'll talk about what is considered the right job, the right loan, the right payment plan, and then also the right number of payments as well. So we'll start off with the right job. So the right job has to be a full-time job. So you have to be a government employee. So you have to be an employee of a local, a state, federal, or a tribal government. Or you could be employed with a public service organization, such as a 501c3, which is a not-for-profit, or possibly any other non-for-profits in specific industries such as education, public health, military, or library, or some other ones as well. So for the purpose of the program, full-time is considered to be, has to be at least 30 hours per work, averaged annually. So depending on what your job is, they will set what is considered a full-time. So for a contractual or employment period of at least 8 months, you have to average at least 30 hours per week for the entire year. If you only have one employer, then the number of hours that employer considers full-time is what will be defined. So now we're going to go to what is the right loan. The right payment plan. No, you had it right. So the right payment plan. So in the past, you had to be on a specific type of payment plan, known collectively as an income-driven repayment plan, to qualify for PSLF. So if you were not on a qualifying payment plan, none of your payments counted toward PSLF. However, though, during this PSLF waiver program, that has definitely helped the situation and has made people eligible with the waiver. So there are many qualifying repayment plans available. You just need to select the ones that is best fit for you. So what you need to do, you need to submit the Pslf Form to certify that all of your qualifying payments from all your previous employers would count towards your PSLF. So if you previously worked at a qualifying employer while you were making payments, you can submit the PSLF form for those payments too. Just one thing to note, though, that if you have multiple employers that would count for PSLF, you do have to fill out a separate form for each employer. So a great place to start is the website studentaid.gov/loan simulator, and that can help get you started for sure. All right, so we talked about the right payment plan. So we will go through a couple of plans that might be eligible for PSLF. That is the standard repayment plan. This is usually the default plan that servicer puts you on. So usually right out of college, if you do not contact the servicer, you will automatically be put on the standard repayment plan. So due to this, it is one of the most popular plans. You may be eligible for PSLF, but during the PSLF waiver program, you will be eligible for sure. So plans that are not eligible for PSLF, and we put in the quotations usually because with the waiver that has changed everything. So these plans are not eligible normally for PSLF. So the graduated repayment plan, the extended repayment plan. So if you're currently on either one of these plans or sometime in the past, the waiver will definitely help you out. So now we're going to talk about the plans that are eligible for PSLF. So the revised pay-as-you-earn, which is also known as repay, the pay-as-you-earn, which is known as pay, the income-based repayment plan, IVR, income contingent repayment plan, known as ICR. So these types of payment plans are referred to as income-driven repayment plans. So they are based off of your income and how much you are able to afford to make for your payment. All right, so now that we've talked about the right job and the right payment plan, now we're going to talk about the right loan. So under the old PSLF program, only direct loans were eligible. So if you had a FEL loan or a Parent Plus loan, those were not eligible. However, though, with the waiver, those plans are eligible. However, though, if you have a Psl or Parent Plus loan, you must consolidate your loans into a direct loan in order to qualify. So you must contact your servicer to consolidate your Psl or Parent Plus loan into a direct loan. So in the past, there we go. So in the past, payments that were made on the wrong type of loan, so if you had a Psl or Parent Plus in the past, and then you consolidated your loans into a direct loan, any payments made before that question or before that time frame would not have counted towards your PSLF. Now, with the waiver, all of those payments will now count as well as any future payments. However, though, like we said, though, if you do have a Psl or Parent Plus loan, you do need to consolidate that loan to get into a direct loan. So private loans are not eligible for any federal programs or assistance, which does include PSLF. So it is very important to get good advice before you do consolidate or you change your repayment plans, because there are certain instances where it may not be advisable to do those items. So now that we've talked about the right payment, the right loan, and the right employer, now we're going to talk about the right number of payments. So with the PSLF waiver, the one thing that has not changed is that you must make 120 qualifying payments, which equals out to 12 payments a year, which equals out to 10 years. That is still required. So all the payments must be made under the old program. Under the old program, you had to be working at that qualifying job for those payments to count. Under your current job, you can get credit for your previous jobs. I think I messed that up. Yeah. So prior to the waiver, you would not have gotten credit for a job that you was not currently working at. With the waiver, you can now get credit for any job that you're currently not employed with. All right, I made that one correct. So all payments must be made while working at a qualifying job. The payments do not have to be consecutive. So if it takes you 11 years to qualify for PSLF, that is all right. You just have to make the 120 qualifying payments. The payments must be full and on time. So on time is considered to be a full amount within the 15 days of your due date. If you decide that you're going to say your monthly payments are normally $200 and you decide to make a payment of $300, that extra $100 will not count as a future payment. You must make the exact monthly payment. So if you make $400 payment on a $200 monthly payment, you do not get credit for 2 months. You only get credit for the 1 month. So there is no paying ahead on that. Taxes. It's always a tricky subject. So you may have heard that you need to pay taxes on the amount of your loan that is forgiven or canceled. So if you have $5,000 canceled on your student loan, that $5,000 canceled debt could be reported to the IRS, meaning that you may have to pay some income taxes on it. However, luckily though, with the PSLF program, your loan is not taxable, and you do not have to pay taxes on any portion that has been canceled on your student loans. So if you have an income-based repayment plan and aren't pursuing PSLF, you could, however, be taxed at the very end of the program, though. All right, so what doesn't count usually? So partial or late payments under the old program, under the original PSLF program, would not count. Also, any time spent in deferment or forbearance, and any payments that were made on a loan that was in default, all of those would not have counted under the original PSLF program. So payments made on a repayment plan that does not qualify for PSLF, like we said before, the graduated plan, the extended plans, those would not have counted under the PSLF program. However, though, with the waiver, those payments would now count. So, however, one thing that has not changed is that if you made any payments before October 1st of 2007, those do not count towards your forgiveness. A payment has to be made after October 1st of 2007. So COVID-19 and the CARES Act. So during the pandemic, the federal government passed the CARES Act, which provides many forms of relief for the federal student loan borrowers. So a couple of things that the CARES Act did was it suspended the monthly payments during that time frame. So starting in March of 2020, going forward, all of the regular monthly payments for federal loans were suspended, and they still are to this day. So, however, though, one of the good things is that during the CARES Act, if you was under the Pslf program, all of those $0 amount monthly payments do count towards your Pslf forgiveness. So for the last 2.5 years, if you was under the Pslf window, the program, you get credit for all of those payments. So the good thing is, though, is that also with the waiver program, you get, if you are under this program, you will get credit for all those $0 monthly payments as well. So that is the good thing with this waiver. So, however, though, if you did make a payment during this COVID-19 CARES Act timeframe, you can request a refund from that servicer. However, though, we do caution anyone that if you do request a refund and any of that money went towards interest, you may have to put some of that towards your tax. You may have to apply some of that towards your tax at the end of the year. So we always recommend someone to consult an accountant if you are looking for a refund. So all of your payments that were made during the CARES Act forbearance, what they did first was they went in and any back interest that you had still on your loan, that was applied first, and then everything else going forward during that time frame was applied directly to your principal balance only. So as of August 2022, the federal government position is that deposit payments will end on December 31st of 2022 of this year. So everything that we've been told to date is that as of January 1st of 2023, the payments will start back up again. All right, Nikki, I'll pass it back to you.
That was me. All right, so we are now going to get into this waiver that we keep mentioning. So during this very limited time, you can receive credit for past periods of repayment that did not otherwise qualify for PSLF. So Brad kind of went through what was normally required and gave us some overview of the loans and payment plans that were not typically allowed. However, if you had the wrong loan, so if you had any of the previously discussed loans, the FEL, the Perkins loans, you must consolidate them into a direct loan. And that has to be done by October 31st. When I say has to be done, that means the paperwork has to be in. We're getting too close to the deadline. The chances are that you will not hear back that your loan consolidation is totally done. They've been trying to keep it around 30 days, but there's been, a huge influx. So as long as your paperwork to consolidate the loan is in, it will count. Again, if you don't know what type of loan you have, like if you're listening to this presentation so far and you're like, I have no idea, do I have a direct loan? Whatever. If you log into the FSA website, on your dashboard, you could click on your loans and it will tell you, it will list what your loan types are right there. So how do you consolidate? You can consolidate by calling your servicer. And there's also a help tool that we're going to talk about in a little bit that can also help with this. Once you consolidate your loans into a direct loan, you will receive credit towards your PSLF for periods of repayment made on any type of loan. So let's say I have been paying my student loans for 8 years now, and they were Perkins loans, or they were a FFEL loan, all right? And I go and I consolidate them all into a direct loan. That 8 years of loan payments will then count towards my PSLF service. So I would only have 2 years left, as opposed to starting over when I first consolidate. That is the beauty of the waiver. Payment changes. So Brad also talked about all these different payment plans. One key point of the payment change is that this income-driven repayment. So now you do have to switch to an income-driven repayment plan. However, once you switch, all of those past payments you made, maybe on that standard that Brad mentioned is usually what servers automatically put people in, all of those payments will count. So, and in the past, once you consolidated, those past payments wouldn't count at all. However, during this waiver period, all of those past payments count. If you had a late payment, if you had a partial payment, those payments will also now count towards your 120 qualifying payments. And then a few miscellaneous changes. So the PSLF program in the past, you had to still be working at, so I always use teachers in an example, guys, just because I used to be a teacher. So they are very, they have a special place in my heart. So let's say I was teaching at a school and then I decided to switch to a education consultancy company. In the past, I would have had to apply and receive my forgiveness while I was a teacher. I couldn't do that in the private sector. But because they're doing this whole look back period and people are getting loans forgiven that maybe 20 years old, that's no longer the case. So if you had at some point in your life done 10 years of service or 8 years of service, those years of service can count even if you are currently in that job. Also, if you have been told in the past that your job did not qualify for PSLF, it may qualify now. For an example, my cousin's stepdad had a Parent Plus loan out, and he was a custodian at a public school for years. And when he tried to apply originally a few years ago for PSLF, he was denied on that Parent Plus loan because they said that his job did not count as a custodian. And now his loan has been totally wiped out. So just make sure you're checking. So all that has changed, what hasn't changed? You still have to have 120 qualifying payments because, again, remember the intent of the law is to encourage 10 years of public service. So you have to have worked or worked at a qualified employer. It has to be full time. So that does not mean if you worked part-time, that time in a public service job doesn't count. And you still have to have direct loans or consolidated into a direct loan. All right, so I'm going to kind of go through this PSLF waiver step by step. All right, so the first thing you need to do is to find out what types of loans you have. Again, log into your FSA account online. Go to Visit Aid Summary. Then there's a loan breakdown section, and if you click view loans and view loan details, the more detailed loan name will appear. So you'll be able to see, if you do not know, what type of loans you have. From what type, you will also be able to see what type of payment plan you have. So take action depending on those two things, what type of loan and what type of payment plan you have. Before you start taking any action into PSLF, if you have any doubts about your job, if you are not sure if it will qualify under PSLF, a lot of times this happens with like nonprofits, if we have any nonprofits out there. So you could always check by going to this link. So if you have any other loans than a direct loan, then you have to consolidate. Your steps are to consolidate your loans into a direct loan and then submit the Pslf form. If you only have direct loans, you're like, oh my God, all my loans are direct. Great. You make sure your employment is eligible, and then you submit a Pslf form. You may need to make a change to your payment plan. So maybe you have direct loans, but you have a standard repayment plan. Then you need to switch it. Again, this help tool that we're going to talk about can help with that, and you could also contact your servicer directly. Once you do that, then you submit the Pslf form. There's also a wait. Let's say you already have all direct loans. They're all already assigned to Mohila. If you have had some but not all of your employment already certified, then you just have to certify with your Pslf form. But let's say you have a direct loan, you're on an income-driven repayment plan, and you've already submitted your ECF or the Pslf form. You're just waiting, which is very hard. But we wanted to put this in there for you to know that, like, you're not going to get necessarily, this is not going to be instantaneous. So if you have the right loan and the right payment plan and you put your application in, there's literally nothing for you to do but wait at that point. So there are refunds possible with all of this waiver information. During COVID-19, you may have chosen to continue your payments thinking, okay, I'm going to pay down the principal. You weren't part of the PSLF program, so you didn't know that this was an option for you. So you paid down the principal, so you weren't paying any interest. However, if you qualify for PSLF, those payments you could have been making $0 on, and that $0 would have counted towards your 10 years of service. So once you know that your job qualifies and you're getting all, your PSLF paperwork back is being confirmed, you can call your servicer and discuss a refund. So a few things about this refund. It's important to note that refunded payments will increase your loan balance back up, right? Because you're being refunded that money. That money's no longer on your loan. So, and it will potentially increase some of your monthly payments. If basically you just need to think what is best for you and your situation. If you consolidated your loans prior to March 13th, 2020, that's when all the COVID-19 deferments went into place. Refunds are not available for anything before that. And refund requests can only be made by you and returned to you. So even if a parent or a spouse, somebody else made a payment on your loan for you, the refund goes to you. So it is important that you're thinking through these refunds correctly. If you know, hey, I'm a public service person, this is what I'm always going to do. The rest of my balance is going to be forgiven. Great. Request those refunds. If you may have a different situation, you may not want that. All right, so now I'm going to turn it back over to Brad. Maybe. Brad?
Sorry, I was on mute. All right, so we're going to talk about the Pslf form and how to fill out your application here. So, next slide. Okay, so the Pslf form. So you can find this form out on studentaid.gov, and right here is the website for you. So by using the help tool, the form will also generate it for you. What we've been told by the federal government as of yesterday is that they recommend everyone use the Pslf help tool. So you need to go out there and generate the form from the Pslf help tool. So your human resources department will need to sign the form for you. And if you do have multiple public service jobs, you will need a different form for every different employer. So this form is also called the Employment Certification Form, also known as ECF. So this is the only application for Pslf, and you do not need to fill out any additional form for the waiver. So here is a copy of the form. At the very beginning, it does say all your information: social security number, date of birth, name, address. The very top, there is a box that does say if your information has changed from what the servicers have, you do need to check that box right there. So the very next page is about your borrower request. So at the very top up here in section 3, there's 3 boxes. So what you need to do is, if you were just writing in to figure out how many payments that you've made, and or if your employer is a qualified employer, you need to check the very first box. The second box is if you believe that you've made 120 qualifying payments and you are ready to, that the second box is for if you believe that you do qualify for the forgiveness program. So if you're applying for the first time, you would check that one. The third one is that if you think that you've made all your payments, all your employers are a qualified employer, you check the third box, and that says that you are ready to qualify for the forgiveness right now as we speak.
Just one other thing on this form, this at the bottom, if you are having a hard time getting your form signed, this is particularly for non-for-profits out there. Some not-for-profits are no longer around, particularly after COVID, right? So if it closed, if the organization closed, anything like that, then you would check that box. So again, first box, you just want to know how many qualifying payments you have. Second box, you believe that you qualify for forgiveness right now. You have 120 payments in, etc. And then the third box, you believe that if you qualify for forgiveness now, then you want a forbearance, so you're not paying on it at the same time that your application's being reviewed. And then third box, if you're having any problems. Go ahead, Brad. Sorry. Brad.
Sorry, I had dogs barking in the background.
It's okay. Go ahead.
So this is the employer information that we're talking about that you have to fill out for your employer. So you will put their employer name. One of the important things that they do recommend you do have is their federal employer identification number. Your job should have that information, so they should be able to give that information to you. So at this point, that will all get filled out. And actually, this part should be filled out by your employer. Or if you want to save your employer the time, you can fill out yourself, but it depends on which route your employer wants to go. So the very last part is where the human resources people will sign off on your form, right there. And now, what you will need to do, if you have never been in the PSLF program, you have to mail in your form. Fed Loans was the previous holder of the PSLF loan. However, as of July, they have started now moving all of those loans over to Mohila. So Mohila is now the new servicer for the PSLF program. If you have never been PSLF before and you are now applying for the waiver program, you have to have a wet signature on your employment verification form, and you have to mail that form in to Mohila. You cannot fax it and you cannot upload it. If you attempt to, they will deny your application. That is what we've been told. So if you're never in the program, you have to mail it in. What we've recommended to people is to send it certified mail. That way you have a record of when you sent the form, as well as a record of when they received the form. So that way you have a record on file for you to fall back on. Now, if you're already in the PSLF waiver program or PSLF program, you can just go out to the website, the mohila.com/upload documentation, and you can just upload documentation to that. So the online tool that we keep talking about, which is the PSLF help tool. What this does, it allows you to search for your qualifying employer. It helps you learn about what actions you may need to take to become eligible for PSLF, and it will generate the form that you need for you. Like we said earlier, you must have your employer's federal employer identification number. I did see a comment out there that did say that they went through the help tool and they got all the way to the end to where it said your loan has not been consolidated and you cannot move forward. We just had a discussion with Department of Education yesterday about this, actually. For anyone that has happened to, please send us an email with your name and information, and they are trying to get that specific thing corrected out there to where you can move forward, even without your consolidation at this time. But they need specific examples of that happening to people for sure. So that is one thing that they did stress to us yesterday. So you can access the help tool out there at studentaid.org/PSLF. So by using the help tool, even if you accidentally make a mistake past the 10/31 deadline, you'll be able to correct that with your servicer. All right, so once you've applied for the PSLF program or the waiver, and you have been approved for the program, saying that you are now in the program, you will get a confirmation letter back from Mohila saying that you are now in the PSLF program, and it will list all of your employers. So if you've had multiple employers, it will say all of their names, your begin date and your end date with each of them, and it will list all of them out there. If you have the same employer, obviously there will only be one employer on the sheet. So just an FYI though, is that at the end of 2021, the loan servicer for PSLF, so like we said, used to be Fed Loan, has now changed to Mohila. So at this time, they are still transferring the PSLF loans from Fed Loan to Mohila. So if you have not been contacted yet by Mohila that your loan is with them yet, there could be a reason for that, because you may be in one of the last batches to be transferred over to Mohila. So, however, though, it's extremely important that you do pay attention to any communication from the financial student aid or your loan servicer in order to make this change for sure, though. All right. All right. So we're going to discuss the recertification process. So if you are just beginning or in the middle of your 120 payments, we do recommend that you go out there every year and you recertify how many payments that you have on your program. So every year, what you need to do, you need to fill out the form, and I believe the very top box just says, I want to get my payment count. So you would check the very first box that says, I just want to check and make sure that I have, or how many payments I have, and that I have the right employer. So we recommend that you do that every year, so that way you have records that you are on track and that you are on pace to make the 120 payments. So by doing this, it allows you to stay on top of your payment counts, and if there are any issues or mistakes that happen to your account, you will know right then and there instead of waiting to the very end, 5-10 years later, and figure out what happened 8 years ago. So if you do switch jobs, though, you do have confirmation that your job still qualifies. All right. So. All right. So the deadline. So in order to take advantage of the waiver wire, everything must be turned in by October 31st. By everything, we mean your consolidation has to be done, and you have to have sent in your Pslf application. So this refers to, well, this is where all paperwork, consolidation, payment switch, and ECF forms. So you just need the paperwork into Mohila by October 31st. So as long as they receive the paperwork by October 31st, you are good to go. What we tell people is do not wait till the very last minute to mail this stuff in. Get it in right now.
All right.
So go ahead.
We are going to kind of go over what we know so far regarding the student loan mass kind of cancellation. Again, caveat, this is what we know so far. Your income has to be, if you're an individual, below $125,000. If you're married or head of household, below $250,000. If you received a Pell Grant in college for your undergrad, you are eligible for up to $20,000 forgiveness. So if you don't remember if you got a Pell Grant, again, if you log into your FSA account, it will be in your loan history, or everything will be there. Even if, let's say, you had a Pell Grant, you went to undergrad, you took a loan out for your undergrad to supplement your Pell Grant, and then you continued your education and you went to get your master's. And while doing that, you paid off that undergrad loan. It does not matter. It's just, if you received a Pell Grant at any point in your life, you are eligible for up to $20,000 for automatic forgiveness. If you did not receive a Pell Grant, then you're eligible for up to $10,000 in forgiveness. The reason why we say up to is because they're not just going to give, so let's say I have $7,000 left on my loan. They're going to forgive $7,000. They're also not going to then send me $3,000. It's just capped at what, up to $10,000 or $20,000 that's left on your loan. So this is, you will have to apply for this. This is starting in early October. It is not available right now. So there is particular application will be made available. There are some borrowers, if you've been part of the PSLF program for a long time, they already have some of your employment information and things that they need. Some people are going to just automatically, it will be done for them. But to play it safe, we have been told to tell everybody to fill out the application. Once you fill out the form, they're telling us it will take about 4 to 6 weeks to see that relief hit your loan. We are also being told that if you want the relief before the payment pause expires, you must fill out that form by November 15th. Again, this form is not available yet. By law, they have to put it up for public comment for so long. It's a process. So there is a website that you can go to and you could check to get updates of when that notification goes live. Like, you'll get notified when it goes live. Another thing that was announced that we do not have a ton of details yet, but it's just something to be aware of. They are going to, they being the federal government, launch a new income-driven repayment plan. This new plan is going to basically cut monthly payments in half, because instead of saying you need to spend 10% of your discretionary income, they're going to say it's going to be 5%. It's also going to raise the amount of money that's considered non-discretionary, and that money is then protected from repayment. Instead of 20 years of forgiveness, loan balances will be forgiven after 10 years if you have $12,000 or less. And what I think is probably the biggest part of this new plan is that as long as you're making your monthly payments, the government is going to pay the interest on your loan. So you are only going, your loan will not balloon. And then resources. We have lots of resources for you to ask for help. So if you need help revaluating your repayment or obtaining PSLF, or you are having problems with your loan servicer, there's the Illinois Attorney General Student Loan Hotline. There's also the complaint form I talked about earlier that gets sent to Brad. And then you could also submit a complaint to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Other federal resources, obviously studentaid.gov. There's different sections on there for just the limited waiver, for just the Biden announcement, some different phone numbers there. The PSLF help tool, we cannot stress enough that you guys should all be using it. We have been told that that is the best way to guarantee that if by getting through there, right, and you get the form and you mail the ECF form in, that's the best way. As Brad said, if you go through the help tool and at any point the tool won't let you go on until you consolidate or until you change your payment plan, we ask that you screenshot that and send to us. And there are our emails. So that was exactly an hour. If you have to hop off, totally understand. We are going to scroll up to start answering questions. If you have other questions, go ahead. You could put them in the chat. A reminder, I will be sending out this presentation to everybody who registered. I will send that out as soon as our communications guru is able to get this up on our YouTube page. All right. So let me go ahead.
All right, Nikki, I just sent you the we can just start up top and work our way down because there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
I know there's still more to go. All right, so we'll start with the very first one. Has anyone been in contact with the higher-ups, i.e. Department of Education, regarding the Fresh Start program's application period starting after the PSLF waiver period ends? We have been in contact with Department of Education about Fresh Start. However, though, there has been few details about it given to us. They, in fact, are still working through the programs themselves. So unfortunately, there's not a lot of information that's not out there that we can give you additionally to what's out there. Basically, what we have is what's been put out there by the Department of Education. Not really a lot of help, but unfortunately, that's just all we have.
Then from Todd, some servicer contract ended. Mine was transferred to Mohila, and they don't have a record of any payments made prior to COVID. I'm going to turn that one over to Brad because this is actually what Brad does every day.
Todd, send the email to my email address right here on the screen. Please provide me your name and information and your old servicer, and we can definitely look into that for you. They should have all of the records been transferred, but we can definitely look into it to make sure that everything is out there for you. So from Blanca, I called the U.S. Department of Education. I was told I would still need to go into an income-driven planned account towards PSLF. My loan is fixed payments, fixed interest, but if I reconsolidate to meet the PSL requirements, I get bumped into a payment plan that requires higher payments and fluctuates. Is there any workaround for that option? Unfortunately, there is not. Why they told you that you need to get an income-driven plan, if you have not made the 120 payments, once the payments start back up again, you do need to be into an income-driven plan to have your future payments count towards PSLF. That's why, and one of the downfalls of consolidating your loan into a direct plan is that there is a possibility that depending on when you got your new loan may have a higher interest rate because the rates are now based off of what the rates are as of today. So most likely, if you got a loan prior on, you would have a lower interest rate. And that is the downfall of reconsolidating your loans.
So that's just when we always say, look, like really, if you're close to finishing your loan off anyway, like really think about it before you jump into the program because it may not be worth it for you at this point. So it's just one of those things that you're going to have to kind of balance. And as always, you could reach out to your servicer and they should be able to talk you through all that as well. I have after the October 31st deadline, if the servicer has already counted the payment as a qualifying payment, will those required payments needed for the PSLF reset? For example, if 5 payments are considered qualifying, will those 5 payments continue to be qualifying? Yes, they will continue.
All right, from John, if you have already sent in paperwork, is there anywhere to see what your status is? I.e. the paperwork received, reviewed, denied. I cannot seem to find anything online. Until Mohila uploads your information to their system, there is not really a way to go out and see whether or not you are in the program or not, unfortunately. The Department of Education is working on a fix for that in the future, but as of right now, there is no way to check that.
What if you did everything right, but your loan servicer misled you? That is I would recommend if you feel that happened, you could send a complaint on that DOB complaint link when I send around the presentation, and you can also call the Attorney General hotline.
As far as Parent Plus loans go, can these be consolidated with the student loans? So student has loans. Parent of student took out Parent Plus loans under the parent's name. Can these be consolidated with the student loans under the student name? I believe the answer to that question is no, if I'm reading this right. So if you have your own loan and your student has their own loan, I do not believe that you can consolidate your student's loan in with yours to qualify for the PSLF. I believe that's how I'm reading that correctly.
If I consolidate to a direct loan, will that loan now be based on the interest rate as of today's date? Yes, it will.
Do you have to apply for the PSLF waiver? Yes, you do.
And the application is just that employment certification form. There is no other special application. It's just that employment certification form.
From Darnell, so if my loan is not 10 years old, this program will not benefit me. Actually, it could very well benefit you. Just because you haven't got 10 years in, you can at least get counted for all of your payments that you have made up to this point. And then moving forward, you will be in the program. So after your 10 years is up and your 120 payments have been made, then you will be officially completed through the program.
So, for example, I was helping a brand new teacher. She just graduated, and she wants to be a teacher. Like that's going to be her career path. So for her, it was getting her set up, making sure she had the right payment plan, the right loan type now early. And then she will just be recertifying her employment every year for the next 10 years. And then her remaining loan balance will be forgiven. How long does it usually take for the servicer provider once I request my loans to be consolidated? This is a great question. What I can tell you is the last we've heard from the federal government has been that it was 30 days. I highly suspect that has gone up because it was 30 days as of Biden's announcement. And since then, a lot more people have applied. So.
From Christina, so when I apply for PSLF, the last 2 years, their $0 payments will not count because I haven't applied for PSLF. As long as you apply for the PSLF waiver before the time is up, all of those $0 payments will count.
Yeah, so again, October 31st, got to be done. My payments never stopped during the COVID-19 CARES Act. Was that because I did not apply for COVID-19 forbearance? The COVID-19, if it was a federal loan, it was automatic. You did not have to apply for it. You just stopped being charged. So I would take a look at your loan and see if it's federal or private, because private loans you still were required to pay for the most part.
Or it could be a commercially held FFEL loan as well. Could be a reason why you was paying. From Marine, if your payments didn't stop, it's probably because you're private loans. Okay, perfect. From Makita, hi, I have to leave. Oh, no, I mean, it's great. Okay. From Elsa, will Mahila still transfer loans if you don't have the 120 consecutive payments? Or would they just leave you with your current loan servicer? Asking because if the 120 payments are not there yet, then we can qualify for the other loan forgiveness program. We would then have to try to transfer them elsewhere to attempt to qualify for the other loan forgiveness program. I'm not sure what other loan forgiveness program you're talking about, but whether you have you've completed 120 payments or not, if you have applied for PSLF, you will be transferred to Mohila, irregardless.
What if I started making payments while I was in school? Will that count? It should count. No, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Hold on. It should not count.
As long as they're full payments.
But it won't count towards your qualifying payments for PSLF because you have to be at a full-time job. Correct. So If you are in school and in a full-time job that is public service, then yes, your payments will count. If you are a full-time student, then no, they won't.
Correct. Can I be in the income-based repayment plan if I have private loans? Some of the servicers do offer income-based repayment plans for private loans, but not all of them do. It is not mandated that they do.
Does this waiver apply to Parent Plus loans allowing for past payments to count? Yes.
However, though, you do need to consolidate those loans into a direct loan.
Another question would be if you have been working for more than 10 years in government, but only have paid about 7 years worth of payments, would they not consider the amount of time worked since the 120 consecutive payment rule does not meet the requirement? So you have to make 120 qualifying payments. So if you work for 10 years and 3 of them you just didn't pay your loans for, then no, that time shouldn't have counted. But if you're talking about 7 years plus the 2.5 years of COVID, then yes, that does count. I'm not sure exactly what, Elsa, if you want to email me that question, that may be better.
So I have a letter that says my loans need to be transferred to Mahila. Do I transfer loans or will they when I consolidate? The servicers will transfer your loans to Mohila. So once you do the consolidation and you apply for the Pslf program, they will be transferred to Mohila.
I have multiple direct loans and 1 Perkins loans. If I don't consolidate the Perkins loan on time, will I still be able to get my other loans forgiven? Yes, but not the Perkins. Also, if I consolidate for my Perkins, will I have to consolidate them all into 1 loan? No. You could probably consolidate it into one of your other direct loans.
How can this program benefit me if I have not started making any payments? Depending on when you started with your job. So if you came out of school December of 2019 and you was not required to make any payments until July 1st of 2020, during that time frame going forward, you may not have been required to make any payments due to the CARES Act. So you may not have made any payments. However, though, as long as you was in the right job during that entire time, you will get credit for those 2.5 years of non-payment. So that's how this could benefit you.
Do any payments count if you made them while you were employed by the private sector before your job at the public sector? No, unfortunately, they do not. This is a program specifically for public service.
Because my loans did not stop during COVID-19, but I had an IVR, does this mean I could have had private loans? Most likely you did, or you had a commercially held cell
loan. I had a Parent Plus loan and paid payments from 2010 to 2022, never missing a payment. I was denied PSLF. My loan servicer stated best interest was to refinance. I did this in March 2022, so all those payments I made will or will not qualify since I now just got a loan at my credit union.
Correct. If you refinanced your loan to a private servicer, which would be a credit union, those loans are no longer federal. Because we've had this question before, and that's what we were told. Once you consolidate those loans into a private loan, that loan is no longer a federal loan.
Yes, as soon as it's private, there's unfortunately nothing we can do. I was a teacher, but for CICS, I don't know what CICS is, but they were managed by a for-profit company. Does my time there qualify? You should definitely check out the employer search on the student aid website to check.
What happens if you've already submitted the Pslf form but have a direct Parent Plus loan? Do I need to consolidate and then resubmit my forms? You do need to consolidate. You shouldn't need to resubmit your forms, but depending on when you set your initial form in, you may want to resubmit.
Okay.
How long does the forgiveness process take? What if your employment changes before you hear back about the waiver program? The forgiveness process takes, we've heard anywhere from, gosh, what was it, 90 plus days, I believe, was the last one we've heard. It could be longer, especially with more and more people applying. So, unfortunately, there's not a good time frame that we can give you for sure. But it will take time.
All right, I'm going back up the screen. Where do I get the Pslf form and where do you get the employment? I will send this out, but everything, what you guys should be doing is going to studentaid.gov and going to the Pslf help tool. All of it is there through the help tool.
From Stacy, the waiver would automatically apply if you've already applied, you have a direct loan, and have an IDR. As long as you've already applied for the Pslf program and you're in their system, the waiver will apply for you.
So if I paid full amounts on time for 10 years with the 10-year repayment plan, I've already paid off my loan? Yes. If that's what you chose, then yes, your loan is paid off. Then you wouldn't need this program. But if you, I mean, this is for people, if they hadn't done the standard repayment plan, that's what the standard repayment plan aims to do. If you hadn't done the standard repayment plan and you did income driven based, that's why you have to be on a different payment plan for Pslf. Does the qualifying employment have to be since the October 1st, 2007 date? Yes. Because previous to 2007, it was not law. That is why.
From Shelby, with the refunds, what if you paid off your student loans during COVID? As long as you made a payment during COVID, you are eligible for those refunds. However, like we stressed before, you need to double check and make sure that no interest was paid off during that, because you could run into some tax implications. So if you want the refund, you are more than eligible for the refund, and then you could apply for the Pslf waiver in essence too, if you made your 120 payments.
Mohila is not showing any of my payments, making me ineligible for Pslf. Todd, send Brad and I an email. Why would we? Go ahead, Brad.
Go ahead. Why would we ask for a refund? Won't this take away from the number of payments we made towards the 120? No, actually, it would not, because any $0 payments made during the CARES Act does count as a month paid.
Stephanie, I've tried to consolidate in the past and was not eligible. I have 2 Stafford unsubsidized and 2 Stafford subsidized loans. Are these considered direct loans? They are not direct loans, and yes, they should be able to be consolidated now with this waiver.
How much time on deferment forbearance can be counted towards payments for the waiver? Good question.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Candace, email us that one. We could track it down. Is working in a hospital considered a public service job? It's entirely dependent on what hospital. There are some hospitals. So, for example, my friend works at the Cleveland Clinic. It is a nonprofit hospital. But there are lots of hospitals that are private. So it just depends.
So if you have had different employers, each employer will need to sign the forms. Correct. You'll need a form for each employer. From Sean, Fed loan was paid off in 2019 through Pslf. Does that mean I do not qualify for a refund? If it was paid off in 2019, that was before the CARES Act, so you're not eligible for a refund.
I submitted PSLF. I attempted to consolidate some loans. I'm not sure if it was successful. Can I consolidate after it's been submitted? Make sure that they're consolidated and that that work is done. Otherwise, your PSLF form will be denied.
From Sandra, I worked at a couple of nonprofits that were sold or were dissolved. What do I do in this case? That is a question that we've actually had for the federal government, and we're still waiting for an answer back. Do you remember if they've answered that question yet, Nikki?
No. Sandra, send us an email, and we'll make sure to get you something, an answer, or direct you to the right place. You have to submit the form. I'm going to answer. There's lots of form questions here. That you submit the form for every different job you had. If that means there are different state agencies, you need separate signatures from every agency. You need a different form for every agency. We don't know who your person is at all of the different agencies. You need to ask your HR department. I worked at a hospital, and now for the state, will my previous job qualify? You will need to check to make sure the hospital was a nonprofit hospital. Okay,
Go
ahead. Do that Parent Plus one.
So my loans are Parent Plus direct loans. It is under my husband's name, and he works for local government, and I work for the school system. Do we need to consolidate the loans? Yes, you do need to consolidate his. So my loans are under Parent Plus direct loans. It's under my husband's name. Okay, I'm confused here. Sherry, if you could send us a little more information about your question, we can definitely help you. However, though, if the loans are under his name, your time working would not count for his loan. So please just send me an email on that, Sherry, and we can definitely get some more information for you.
Randy, can you please put all of what happened to you with the help tool in an email? And if you have any screenshots of that, that would be amazing. Put in an email to Brad and I.
Rochelle, as far as Parent Plus loans, can these be consolidated with the student loans when the parent has co-signed with the students and the students, my son, has the loans? Are the students able to consolidate with student loans under the student name? I believe the answer to that is no, Rochelle. It depends. If you're asking if you can consolidate your son's loans into your loan for the PSLF program, that is, they would not get their loans forgiven. If the original loan was under their loan, they would not get your credit for working for the employment on their loans. I hope I answered your question, Rochelle.
All right, guys, I know we're going a little bit long, so I'm trying to scroll down. Brad, if you want to keep answering questions, and then there looks to be a lot of confusion in the chat about the state agencies. CMS cannot fill it out for every state agency. They are their own agency. So I'm going to use Brad as an example because he worked at DHS and now he works at Idfpr. What? HFS?
HFS.
Sorry, HFS. I was close. He worked at HFS. Now he works at Idfpr. If he needed to get these forms filled, he would need a form that was signed by HFS and by Idfpr. Also, if you are having problems getting the signature from your Human Resources Department, unfortunately, that is something Brad and I can't control. So I would just suggest, there was a comment in here, I don't know who your employer is, but I would suggest making sure if you don't have that signature and it is not turned in by October 31st, you won't be able to take advantage of this waiver. So I would recommend being annoying until you get it.
From Melissa, if you file taxes separately from your spouse, will their income be considered when applying for income repayment plans? Yes. Income repayment plans are based off of your household income. That would be anyone living, and that would be you and your spouse, even if you do file separately. How does it work if the school you attended has closed? Kimberly, that would, if your school is closed, depending on what school it was, there are other types of forgiveness programs out there via closed schools. But that would not affect your your PSLF loan forgiveness, though. That should have no bearing on that.
All right, so lots of questions about the 125K. The year that they're going off of for the forgiveness, the either 10K or 20K, the 125K is from 2020. Correct, Brad? By the time of the CARES Act.
They said both. They said fiscal year, tax year 2021, but they've also said tax year 2020. They have not officially announced which year that it will be.
So
but it does. It is your gross income, though. That was what we was told.
You are not eligible for Pell Grant forgiveness. You're not, if you currently are making as an individual over $125,000, you will not get either the 10K or the 20K forgiveness. Does the forgiveness apply to the principal or the interest? They actually have an entire system of how they're going to do this. Brad, they're going to start with the interest, right? And then go to the principal?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think they said.
Oh,
I would assume that it would go to principal first, but that's a good question.
We'll track down that answer for you. Just shoot us an email. All of this stuff applies to also graduate student school loans. It's not all undergrad, Ross. If I consolidated with my husband and we both received Pell Grants, can we receive up to $20,000 each forgiven? That is a great question. Can you email us that? Because there's been, I don't want to say for sure one way or the other until we check on a few things.
What is that again, Nikki? Sorry. What was the question
if I consolidated with my husband and we both received Pell Grants, can we receive up to $20,000 each forgiven?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Does the new income-driven repayment plan count for PSLF? We don't have any other details about the IDR plan. My guess is that it will, but you can't sign up yet. Patricia, I have 2 loans. One is private and the other is federal. I should only have to consolidate the private loan. Is this correct? That is not correct. Private loans are not at all eligible. You cannot consolidate them with federal loans, and they are not eligible for this program. Consolidated married student loans, that is where we are receiving questions from, and we actually have questions out to the federal government because we have not been given guidance. Yes, you could get forgiveness for my grad studies. Validating military service.
The $10,000 loan forgiveness is not for graduate studies. That's only for undergraduate.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. But PSLF it is.
Correct. Just in case someone wanted to know about that.
To validate military service, it's the same form. Mohila needs actual ink signatures. So what that means is it cannot be a digital signature. They have to actually be an ink signature. They can PDF it and email it to you, but it has to be an ink signature. Can you apply to both programs? Yes. For PSLF and new loan forgiveness plan starting in October? Yes. There is not another way that Mohila can verify your information for you for employment verification. You have to do the form.
Will I qualify if I have never made a payment? I have a new loan that started August 2022 and do not have to make a payment until my child graduates. You will not get any credit from August 2022 until your child graduates. So the repayment will not start officially until May of 2026, I believe. But LaShawn, please send an email with a little bit more information, and we can double verify it. We can definitely find out for you for sure for a definite answer on that one.
I'm really sorry. I actually have to hop off because I have to get to another meeting. So if you guys have any other questions, please email us. And again, I am sending out the presentation. There's lots of questions. You will get this in your emails. I have all your emails from your registration. I will email you and I will give you the YouTube link so you can rewatch as well. All right. Sorry, guys, but I got to run to my next meeting. Thank you guys so much.